But yeah, I mean, the whole philosophy behind this, well, they also really nicely produced the two first seasons that we've had already. But it was kind of feeding off the back of the success of Drive to Survive, and subsequently they've done various different same style but for different sports, and cycling was one of them. And I mean, do you think it had that big an impact, Tour de France Unchained? Obviously, for cycling people, ourselves included, it gave a great insight. But was there that connection with normal view on Netflix?
I mean, of course, for us, yeah, it was sort of a agenda setting for a while, with particularly that Richard Plugger storyline. Also, that Tom Pidcock stuff as well. Pidcock and Wout van Aert openly expressed that they did not like the way they were portrayed in the show. The teams that sign up to it do not have editorial control. The editorial control is wholly in the hands of that production company, Box to Box Films, who also do Drive to Survive. There's a golf one, there's a tennis one, there's like a sailing one. There's loads of them. There's almost too many. And Netflix also, with sort of the confirmation that they will be cancelling this, or not, I guess like cancelling, they didn't use those words, but they'll be stopping filming of this show. So they said they wanted to go into new sports. I mean, which new sports can you possibly tap into? There seems to be one for everything. But it definitely did sort of help. The show broke into sort of Netflix's trending top 10 in, I believe, 15 countries worldwide. However, one market particularly didn't do so well in was France. It was particularly underwhelming in terms of viewing figures in France. And this show was made specifically with the support of French Netflix in order to consolidate French Netflix subscriptions. This was a French-centric show created for that French market. Half of the show is in the French language. We follow French teams, particularly Age Desert Citroën, or Decathlon as they're now known, and Groupama Français des Jeux. It does have that sort of that centrism there. All the commentary as well on the show is also originally in French. But it didn't quite take off in France, and I think they were disappointed with that, given that was a sort of a mission statement of the show, what was to really capture that French market. It failed in doing that. Although the international sort of support for it was relatively okay, I don't think cycling has quite had its Drive to Survive moment. You know, I'm not seeing sort of people talking about cycling and sort of seeing that cycling market diversify as much as F1 did with Drive to Survive. Also with, tennis as well. There was a lot of talking about Breakpoint and about how the character storylines evolved there. Really, particularly Ons Jabeur, the tennis player, really got a sort of insight into her life and career. I don't feel like we had that with Unchained. I don't feel we really got an insight and broke through that existing cycling membrane, to be quite honest.
It's a shame because, I guess this season 3 that is happening will have some very interesting storylines. Biniam Girmay, green jersey, Jonas Vingegaard's comeback, Tadej Pogacar's double.
Yeah, Intermarché I don't think were involved in the previous ones. However, teams that get involved in the show receive €50,000 from the production company in order to have full access, but also they lose the editorial control, which could be a problem with UAE in the upcoming one. I've heard from sources that there's going to be a particular emphasis on the Almeida Ayuso dynamic at the 2024 Tour de France. So, teams might be a little bit disgruntled, not wanting to open their doors in fear of a kind of PR disaster. We saw that with Jasper Philipsen. It was painted out to be Jasper the disaster. We've both met him. He's a nice guy. I wouldn't say he's a disaster. He's just a perfectly normal human being. But the show kind of takes away the editorial control from the teams, which is entertaining for us viewers. We want to have the most spicy storylines possible. That if you're a team PR manager or media person and a rider, you're not going to be too content with that.
Yeah, that's also the criticism we've heard from Drive to Survive as well. When it's not exciting enough, they spin a narrative. Do you think also we've seen Jumbo-Visma have done their own in-house documentaries as well? And do you think that could be the way forward for some of these teams now?
Well, that was the way beforehand, and I suspect we're going to get back to that. If you look towards sort of 2021, 2020, there's a lot of sort of in-house films being made. You got Sunweb did theirs on the Giro in 2020. You got Jumbo-Visma did one in 2021. They also have Coda Hail that they did for Dutch national television, an amazing documentary if you want to watch that one about their 2020 tour. You get some fascinating insights into Roglic's Planche de Belfi stage. I think, yeah, we're going to go back to that kind of format, I believe. And that's going to put more of an emphasis on kind of team's own videographers to kind of jump up and fill their spot. But I don't think, like, you know, if you're not into cycling, how are you going to know to subscribe to the Soudal Quickstep YouTube channel? Unless teams specifically work with sort of getting TV stations on board, or trying to get their own Netflix stuff, a bit like Dia Menos Pensado that Movistar had a couple of years back, where they had a 3-season-long Netflix-backed documentary. I mean, Soudal Quickstep had one on was it Amazon Prime, I believe. Maybe we'll sort of see teams trying to lean into that and sculpt their own team-focused one. However, what was really good about Unchained is that you got to see multiple teams and multiple perspectives of that same narrative, of that same storyline. If it's just within one team, you only really get that one perspective, which I think it definitely sort of gives the one up to Unchained. But going forward, I mean, there's certainly a gap to be filled. What if the Giros did one instead?
Yeah, I was also thinking maybe ASO is probably going to be quite expensive as well. So if the Giro could,
I mean,
or no?
I mean, I don't necessarily know the financial side of it between the rights and the Tour de France and Netflix. I know they share media assets in terms of videos, and I know that for sure. But I don't necessarily know what the finances are around that. One thing I also, you know, One Cycling is looming on the horizon. One Cycling is going to have a big sort of broadcast overhaul, at least from what I know so far, is that One Cycling could potentially be on a new streaming platform. One that's been spoken about is DAZN, which is used for a lot of UFC fights and NFL. With One Cycling potentially being on a new streaming platform, that could also give way to having an extra sort of revenue stream, and that could be through a documentary like this. People will probably pay the subscription fee to be on like a sort of video service to watch sort of inside One Cycling, particularly if One Cycling, as they promise, we're going to get the likes of Tadej Pogacar, Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel sort of racing head to head multiple times a year, and not just at the Tour de France. You can build a season-long narrative. One Cycling is all about transforming cycling into this F1 structure. This could, like, that lends itself towards that F1 structure in terms of its media outlook. With Try to Survive will be a similar narrative there. I
mean, British viewers know about the TNT buying all the rights and free to view air. Well, I'm just like reaching for straws here, but like grasping for straws. But my point is, do you think they might pick up the ball here and go, well, we could make a documentary like this? Do you think the Netflix vacuum that this will create could potentially do something? The Giro d'Italia, yeah, that would be quite interesting. But again, does that connect to the normal person? It's the same barrier. If the Tour can do it, sorry, Giro, I don't think you can do it.
Yeah, outside of Italy and sort of, you know, I guess maybe Belgium, Netherlands, Giro is not really a kind of common known race.